Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program live on our Facebook page, Radyo Pilipinas World Service, and you can catch up this episode later in the evening through our YouTube channel, and you can hear us live on our audio streaming at Evox PBS receiver app. So join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
All right, in this edition of Front and Center, we will be discussing President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s recent remarks on redefining the country's partnership with China, as the president emphasized that while the country will continue to assert its sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea, the chief executive is also looking for ways to strengthen the cooperation and as well as the dialogue with China in other areas such as trade, cultural exchanges, and regional collaboration under ASEAN. And to help us unpack what this means for Philippines-China relations and regional stability, we're now joined by a distinguished security analyst and expert on Philippine foreign policy and Asian geopolitics, Dr. Romel Banlawi, the director of the Philippines-China Studies Center and president of Philippine Society for International Security Studies. Good morning, Dr. Banlawi. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Yes, good morning to everyone, and I'm so glad to be here.
Okay, thank you. All right, so how do you interpret President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s call or remarks to redefine the relationship with Philippines with China amid ongoing tensions in the West Philippine Sea? Dr. Banlawi?
Well, I'm so glad to hear that from President Bongbong Marcos Jr. Because there is really a need to define our relationship in the light of difficult relationship. So I'm here.
I'm sorry.
Bongbong Marcos is now planning to redefine relationship.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was not able to catch the whole. Okay. Okay. I think we have a line of communication problems here, but we'll try to call Dr. Banlawi as he gives an answer to the question of how does he interpret the president's remark to redefine the relationship with China. All right, Dr. Banlawi, I think you're back on the line. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, we'll try to establish our line of communication with Dr. Banlawi. So in the meantime, we'll have a short break here on Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Mas pinadali na ang government transactions sa tulong ng eGov.ph Super App. Pwedeng-pwede mo nang magawa ang lahat ng ito. I-download ang eGov app sa iyong smartphone o tablet mula sa App Store o Google Play Store. Pagkatapos, ilagay ang iyong mobile number at i-authenticate gamit ang one-time PIN o OTP para marehistro ang iyong account. Saka ilagay ang iyong mga pangunahing impormasyon at kumpletuhin ang facial recognition technology para sa verifikasyon ng iyong pagkakakilanlan. Para sa mas mabilis at mas maayos na serbisyong panggobyerno, gamitin na ang eGov.ph Super App.
Service, still with me, Jerome Toledo. Okay, so Dr. Banlawi is back on the line. So how do you interpret the president's remark or regarding the redefining the relationship with China, Dr. Banlawi?
Well, I'm so happy to
hear about the intention of President Bongbong Marcos Jr. to redefine our relationship in China, because that is very needed in the light of recent incidents where we had difficult bilateral relationship with China. And as a scholar watching diligently the developments in China, we really need to redefine our relationship with China with the hope of improving our friendly relationship with China, because China is a close neighbor, and China is a big market, and China is a growing power, not only in Asia but also in the international community. So there is really a need for the Philippines to redefine not only our relationship with China, but to redefine our foreign policy objectives with China.
And also, it's worth noting that the Philippines is opening up its doors to Chinese tourists through e-visa policy, which will be happening, I think, later in November.
Well, that's already a late decision. We should have done that from the very start of Bongbong Marcos administration. But it's better late than never, because indeed China is one of the major sources of tourism for the whole world. Because of China's current prosperity now, there are many Chinese citizens being encouraged by the Chinese government to go out abroad and learn from other countries, and also promote not only people-to-people contacts, but also in the process of their visits to other countries, explore potential for investments and other economic opportunities.
Okay. And also, President Marcos Jr. also said he aims to advance this redefined relationship with China during the ASEAN chairmanship, or I'm sorry, as the Philippines take over the chairmanship of the ASEAN next year. So how might the Philippines use it to its advantage to influence a regional consensus on the South China Sea issue?
Well, I only hope that the intention of President Bongbong Marcos Jr. is not only temporary, but also long-term. If he's only talking about improving relationship with China because we are chairing the summit of ASEAN next year, I think that's a very narrow objective. What we need is to develop a long-term strategy on how to improve our relationship with China for purposes not only of our own economic development, but also in pursuing regional stability, and of course, in my interest, eventually improving relationship with China for purposes of peacefully settling our territorial disputes and maritime jurisdictional conflicts with China in the West Philippine Sea.
And how can the Philippines do it to balance the cooperation with China while at the same time asserting our sovereignty there?
Well, it will take a lot of efforts on the part of the Philippine government to demonstrate its sincerity with China, that it is redefining relationship with China. But at the same time, China should also reciprocate this kind of sincerity. So it takes two to tango. So the two parties should exert tremendous efforts to really improve their relationship, rebuild their confidence, promote mutual trust in order to really redefine their overall bilateral relationship. So for me, the first step in a 1,000-mile journey is to rebuild confidence. They need to conduct a lot of confidence-building measures, because these confidence-building measures will provide the conducive environment for the two parties to develop mutual trust. And if they have mutual trust, then they can improve their bilateral relationship, and then can explore possible areas of cooperation that can eventually lead to the management of their existing conflicts in the South China Sea.
I see. Okay, so it's not a one-way street. So as you mentioned, it takes two to tango.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Okay, so how do you assess, Dr. Banlawi, the significance of the Philippines rejecting China's plan to build a nature reserve in Scarborough Shoal or Bao de Masinloc? So what does What message does this send to both Beijing and ASEAN?
Well, we have to put that in proper perspective. We are rejecting the decision of China declaring Scarborough Shoal as a natural marine reserve because China did it unilaterally. So without prior consultation with the Philippines. So, but if China pursued prior consultation with the Philippines, then the idea of declaring the Scarborough Shoal as a natural reserve area or a marine park area is in fact an excellent idea. Okay. However, no parties in the South China Sea should do it unilaterally because those areas are what we call contested areas. The United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea encourages all parties involved in maritime jurisdictional conflicts to have prior consultation if they want to conduct such kind of unilateral activities. And at the same time, UNCLOS also urges all parties to pay due regard to other parties when it comes to their respective national positions. So that is the context on why we are rejecting China's proposal because China did it unilaterally. But if there was a prior consultation, then this could have been accepted by the Philippine government. And remember, in 2019, the Philippines and China, during the time of former President Rodrigo Duterte, already had decision to cooperate in the area of marine environmental protection and marine environmental research. And that was done through mutual consent. So that's the kind of process that we need to uphold in order to really pursue cooperative undertakings in that area. But if party will do it unilaterally, it will only lead to protest. It will only lead to rejection.
So it should be done on a bilateral basis. Both Philippines and China should do talks regarding this issue on the nature reserve.
Yeah, but it is not as simple as that because the Scarborough Shoal has been declared by the International Tribunal in 2016 as traditional fishing ground of user states. All right. So we should also consult other user states when it comes to that because if it's only Philippines and China pursuing marine environmental protection in that area and not others, then it's difficult to implement that. So we also need to consult other user states so that there will be collective action for the protection of the Scarborough Shoal.
And in this comes the code of conduct that the ASEAN is pushing regarding this issue. And speaking of that, do you think ASEAN can realistically push for the code of conduct to be completed by next year? So what obstacles that may stand in the way, Dr. Banlawi?
But we need to clarify first the meaning of concluding the code of conduct in the South China Sea by next year. Do you mean conclusion, meaning that all parties have already reached a consensus or an agreement to implement a code, or conclusion meaning they want to end the whole process anyway because of the stalemate? I am closely monitoring the discussion on the proposed code of conduct in the South China Sea, and there are still 5 major issues that have not been resolved by both China and ASEAN parties.
Can you mention those obstacles that needs to be resolved?
Number one is the concept of the legal status of the code of conduct. Will it be legally binding or not? So they have not yet arrived at a consensus whether it is a legally binding document or just like a 2002 declaration on the conduct of parties in the South China Sea, which is a mere declaration. So, but the Philippine position is to have a code of conduct that is legally binding. So that's the thing. Second, there's also a discussion on the geographic scope of the code of conduct. Will it be implemented only in the Spratlys, where there are 5 major parties involved, or in the entire South China Sea involving the parcel, the Scarborough Shoal, okay, and the Spratlys, because these are various locations. So then what type of rules the parties will implement in the Scarborough Shoal, Spratlys, and Paracel, because these are three different island groups in the South China Sea that require specific regulations. So they have not agreed on that. And third, also the scope of activities to be covered by the code. What kind of activities will be covered in the code? Civilian activities, military activities, scientific activities. Okay, so what are the activities to be covered? Because there are many activities happening in the South China Sea. There are military exercises, military patrols, there are scientific research, there are economic activities happening there. So what activities will be covered by the code? And then the fourth one is the issue of accountabilities. If one of the parties violates the code, okay, what will be the accountability of that party? So what will be the punishment? So they have not clarified yet the accountabilities. And lastly, 5 is the dispute settlement mechanism. If in the implementation of the code there are various interpretations, then who will settle this disagreement? So they have not yet clarified their decisions on those key 5 issues.
And should this 5 issues that needs to be resolved, so that's the time that code of conduct on the South China Sea issue will be resolved there. All right.
Yeah, but I have seen some discussions for possible conclusion. They are talking about the low-hanging fruits, meaning can we decide on the low-hanging fruits, fruits that we can easily pick up so that we can conclude the code of conduct. So, but we have not yet publicly released these low-hanging fruits where parties can start cooperation and where parties can implement a code.
Okay, all right. Okay, so jumping back to the ASEAN chairmanship of Philippines for next year. So if President Xi Jinping, Chinese President Xi Jinping accepts the invitation to come to Manila, what kind of symbolism or diplomatic signal that would send to the region and to the world? And as I recall, Dr. Banlawi, the last time President Marcos Jr. has seen President Xi is way back 2023 in Beijing.
Yeah, a lot of expectations were generated during President Marcos Jr.'s visit to China in January 2023.
Yeah.
But these expectations also led to great disappointments in Beijing because of the failure of the Philippine government to implement agreements made in Beijing in January 2023. And these disappointments were aggravated in recent years because of the situation in the South China Sea and also because of some bitter remarks made by our officials against China, pushing back against China. Especially statements coming from the Department of National Defense, coming from the Navy, and coming from the Coast Guards. And China regarded all these official statements as highly offensive. So I really don't know if in that situation, President Xi Jinping will be comfortable to visit Manila next year. So, and at the same time, I hope that the Philippine government will not use this invitation for purposes of optics. Because China's objective in building closer relationship with the Philippines is not for optics but for strategic purposes. But in my own observation, the Philippine government is doing a lot of things for optics. But not for strategic purposes.
But President Marcos Jr. wants to, wants to talk things over with China. As he remarked, he wants to redefine relationship. I think he said that last week. A few days ago in the ASEAN summit.
Yes, but I hope he's not only paying lip service to that. because we have seen a lot of double talks happening not only in the Philippines but also in China, and I hope the two countries will be able to find ways to manage their differences on fundamental issues. That's the key thing. They need to manage their differences, and their differences are growing as both parties fail to talk. So what we need now is to really start serious talks in order to manage their differences so that they can meet halfway and start cooperating, okay, and be friends again.
Yeah, all right, and that's the advice that you will give to policymakers in managing fine line between assertiveness and provocation in the China policy.
Yes, but in this situation, both parties need to understand their own respective national positions. There should be what we call in international politics the idea of mutual respect and due regard. But what I have seen over the last 3 years, both China and the Philippines have been doing a lot of unilateral activities that are offensive against each other. So we should exercise restraint in doing all these unilateral activities that are hostile. So what we need is to conduct prior consultations with each other if they have plans to do some activities there. So activities must that they plan to do in the South China Sea must have prior consent or prior consultation, and they can do that by talking, by negotiating, or by pursuing dialogues. And we already have mechanism for that.
Right.
The bilateral consultative mechanism in the South China Sea. During the time of President Duterte, they used the bilateral consultative mechanism in the South China Sea to identify areas where the Philippines and China can cooperate. But in my observation, during the last 3 years, the bilateral consultative mechanism in the South China Sea was used both by the Philippines and China to blame each other.
All right. Okay.
So that is not the way. That's not the way to do it.
Well, my question is regarding that. So, what should come first from a national security standpoint, Dr. Banlawi? Should the Philippines must have an engagement economically with China, or they should have, or the Philippines should have strategic deterrence through alliances?
Number one, the first step is they have to rebuild confidence first.
Yeah,
that's the first step that they need to do. Rebuild confidence first, so that they can reestablish their friendship. They need to be friends again.
Yeah.
Because if they are not friends with each other, it's very difficult to do any economic cooperative activities or any cooperation to occur. So they need to rebuild confidence for purposes of rebuilding their friendship and repairing their damaged ties. Because our bilateral ties have been tremendously damaged over the last 3 years. So we need to repair these damaged ties, and what we need, the first step, is rebuild confidence. And for me, the strategic deterrence will not work. In my observation as a scholar watching China's military development, it will not work because China has already developed its counter-deterrence capability.
I see. Okay.
So we want to deter China, but China has already developed a counter-deterrence capability, not only against the Philippines, but even against the United States and its allies in Asia.
I see.
So that's it. That's why I'm very worried about the situation. Counter-deterrence will not affect China. China, because in my observation, China is not deterred by the situation because China has already developed a counter-deterrence capability. So what we need now is not deterrence. What we need is a policy of engagement, a policy of cooperation. Containment is counterproductive for regional peace and stability.
Okay. So I'm down to my last question, Dr. Banlawi, and this is recently happening as two superpowers between United States President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping has met in South Korea and discuss a lot of things, particularly in economy and trade, and I think they've agreed and disagreed on some agendas. And by that point alone, Dr. Banlawi, how influential the meeting between Trump and Xi in a Philippine perspective, how influential is this?
It is very important to see the improvement of bilateral relationship between China and the United States. It is very important for the Philippines to see the improvement of U.S.-China major power relationship, because if China and the United States are in good terms, the Philippines will also be in good terms with China.
And you mentioned, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, because if China and the United States have bad relationship or difficult relationship, it will also pose difficult relationship in Philippines-China relations. So we welcome these positive improvements in U.S.-China relationship, especially the positive improvement in U.S.-China major power relationship, because if the two countries are in good terms, the Philippines will also have good terms with China.
Philippines can do that by simply talking and communicating and engaging with China. Dr. Banlawi?
And I think that is the context on why the Philippine government is willing to redefine its relationship with China, because there is also a redefinition of U.S.-China major power relationship, and I think that's the context. But as I have stated earlier, our objective should not be motivated by optics alone. It should be motivated by a larger strategic objective. And this larger strategic objective must be in the context of pursuing Philippine national interest. And it is in the interest of the Philippines to promote friendship with China and to develop better understanding with China, so that we can cooperate with China for purposes of our economic development and also for purposes of regional stability and overall purpose of international security.
All right. Very well said, and we will be watching this development as we tread along in this. So, and I hope the Philippines will have a better relationship with China in the future. And with that, thank you so much, Dr. Romel Banlawi, the Foreign Policy and Security Analyst, for joining us in the program. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Happy.
All right. And with that interview, the program with Dr. Romel Banlawi, the president of the Philippine Society for International Security Studies, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service, together with our technical team, headed by our Wirecast operator, Hiro Lucero, and Leo Magpayo, and the intern from Technological Institute of the Philippines. Well, thank you so much. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.